Hello, and welcome to Abstract Essence, the podcast where I ask people to answer the question, what is art? This week, we have my good friend and all-around awesome guy, Nick Papa, along with his co-founder, Leo Porth. Nick has made waves here in Philly over the past year or so with Upandovr, a DIY musician creative support team that has a couple of great projects that I'm sure we'll get into later. Nick is also an abstract painter, professional guitar tab reader for the most basic chords, and occasionally moonlights as Batman, I think. Did I miss anything, Nick?
I think you nailed it all. I'm glad that I forgot that I told you professional guitar tab reader, but that is very true, and that's where my skill sets end with playing guitar. So I'm glad I met someone like you who can actually play the guitar, and then I can benefit from and through my own enjoyment. So
yeah, man. Why don't you, for anyone who's like listening, who has never heard of Upandovr, kind of let them know what it's about?
Yeah, for sure. So Upandovr is essentially a creative support team for the DIY community in Philadelphia. It's sort of the inception of it started back about a couple weeks before the pandemic started, when my co-founder Leo Porth and I discussed just the amazing community that's wrapped around music in Philadelphia and the DIY scene, and how sort of how much opportunity lies in supporting that community that has so much talent and so much to offer, and really just has, deserves more national representation and more recognition than what we've seen it sort of get. And I think at a more sort of philosophical, moral level, I always felt like I wanted to put something back into the music world, and I knew it wasn't going to be actually playing, but more so helping to facilitate and be a spark for other creatives to, just help figure out what they want to do and what their next step is. And, we really wanted to develop something that really helped people, and something we could put more energy back into, from a creative space that, I take from, all the time through just listening to music. And, it felt like a sort of a cosmic balance to help put some energy back, through an output, because it's been so much of an input, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man, that's a great way to think about it. And I know personally as an artist here in Philly, like I've loved the work you guys have done, like even just with me in terms of helping put shows together or filming the musicale, which for anyone listening is sort of like basically just like live sessions for different artists around town, which are really cool. And they do them all these different locations, which are super fun. And for mine, actually, we rented out this glass house. Was that in Pottstown?
It was in Pottstown. I remember that because that's the best name for a town.
For a town. Pottstown.
That was fun.
That was so fun. And just like, I've definitely heard people talk about, just having those resources and things like that helps them get shows, helps them, build their audience and stuff, which is amazing. And what's the name? Rosie, right? That's your newsletter.
Yeah, Rosie is a news concert calendar sort of newsletter for cheap shows around Philly.
So how do you guys aggregate all that information?
Manually. I think that was also one thing that Leo and I discussed very early on. Upandovr has taken a ton of different forms over the years, and the very first form was Leo and I had this idea to just like put together something that was a concert calendar of sorts, because we felt like it was missing in Philly. And over the last year or so, there's been so many resources that help to support that. So, we do a lot of manual research. We have people reach out to us and send us shows. But, there's also tons of resources now where we can help and can go and pull shows from, like phillyshows.org is a great one. There's a few others I can't think of off the top of my head, but just really focus on, free and cheap shows. There's so many cool, I lived in New York for a couple of years, and there's so many cool resources for like any genre you can imagine to really pull from in terms of like who's playing and where. And one of my favorite resources was this newsletter called The Skin, which is like all free events happening in New York every weekend. And I was like, such a cool thing that people can just pull that together. And especially in New York when 99% of your paycheck's going to rent, it's nice to have something that is a little bit cheaper of a resource.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. One of the things I respect about you the most is definitely that, you see things like that and you're thinking, how can I go do that? And, spread that kind of love and that kind of opportunity, which is awesome. And I love it when people look at things that way. I'm curious also, in terms of all the things you guys do, so the newsletter, the musicals, I know you got some other stuff in the works. In terms of the Upandovr philosophy to make everything free, I'm curious as to how you guys, I guess, settled on that and how you think about that and whether or not that will remain moving forward. Or
$1 million question right there. No, it will always be free for artists. I think that's something that I just believe in personally, and it's probably because I work in the marketing world. So like I see how quickly things can be tainted, when you're positioning your brand as some sort of support, which genuinely that's what this is, and that comes from like a very special place in my heart, to then figure out how to ask those people for money. Just I don't see that ever happening. I think where we'll probably as a business take this is into places like, sponsorships and events. I think live events is going to be a really big part of what we do. And, we need to have people help contribute to this to really make that happen. And, you've obviously been someone that has helped us out on a couple of things from, an audio perspective. And, we've been so overwhelmed by the love and support of people that just like are like, this is amazing what you're doing. Like, we want to come help do this. And so that's going to be a big part of like our roadmap is just being able to have the support there to scale in a way to, keep creating cool shit and also, be able to figure out putting things like events together. One of the really quick anecdote for people watching or listening to this is Mike actually, like, you were like a really big part of me being able to go out and like search for people and be able to have a dialogue about contribution and people like helping support Upandovr, because my whole thing was I was very like skeptical to like ask people to help support Upandovr in that way and help us grow, because I was like, I don't want to ask people to do this for free. And you were like, you're doing it for free. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, I guess. And so that was kind of eye-opening. And then like ever since then, like it's been sort of a snowball effect of people just like reaching out, and we've been so like fortunate to have so many people that are interested in this. But I think it's a testament to like really focusing what you do around your passions, because other people share those passions and they're willing to help. So in terms of our roadmap from a business perspective, who knows? But everything that we do for artists will always be free, because at the core of what we do, it's to help level up, artists that are underrepresented, and it will never feel right to ever charge them.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's funny that you said that, because I feel like with my projects that I run as well, and like my band, for example, I'm not at a point where I'm making enough money either from my day job or from playing shows or recording wherever, where I could reasonably pay anyone, and it's, in a way it's a moral dilemma, but it's also like I can't sink my own wallet to try to like make shows happen and get things off the ground. So it really is about finding other people that share the passion, share the dream. Like, we played a show a few months ago, and we were like, we got like $100 for the show as a band. 5 people in the band, it was like $20 each. It was actually less than that. It was going to be like $14 or $15 each. And I was going to be like, okay, guys, so we can either each get like, a sandwich, or we could like make a band fund where all of the show money goes to like that, and I don't get it even though I'm like the main artist or whatever. Like I don't touch it, and then we just use it on band things, which is, we've had our first New York show a couple days ago, and like that was just paid for by the money from our previous shows. And so in that way it's like, everyone is putting into the dream, into the activity with like, what they do, and then in a way it pays back in terms of experience and just being a part of something awesome. I think everyone just wants to be a part of something that they think is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's what you're doing, is you're investing in something bigger than yourself, by doing that, because maybe that helped fund, your Amtrak ticket to get to New York, or, pay for the gas or whatever it is. Like, those are very real expenses for bands to be able to do the thing. So it's cool. I think it's a good idea to invest in yourselves that way. And I think I'm sure people in the band feel the same way, but it's an investment in yourself,
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, just like, I wouldn't even say you talk about this as a service that Upandovr does, but just coming to shows and like taking photos, taking videos, doing like a little tiny promo cut reel type situations. Those are kind of invaluable. I mean, I've been recently gigging more and paying photographers and videographers, experimenting with that, because I never had like any money to spend on that when I was in college. And it's, it's more, it costs a bit of money. If you want someone good, pay $60 to $100 something, have them shoot, your half hour, 45-minute set. So just to have someone who will just come and do something even seemingly as small as that ends up being super impactful for people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that like coverage of shows is something that we're trying to invest some more time thinking about, what it is that looks like, because it feels like such an opportunity, a medium where there's opportunity for reinvention, where it's like, it's just like guy or girl, with a camera taking photos and videos, and then everything looks kind of the same. It's like it just feels like that creatively there's opportunity for like show coverage to be like totally reinvented. And I don't know what that is. And sometimes I need to like humble myself, because I'm always like, reinvent everything.
Yeah, you really are. I love that. I love that though.
But I think, it's more so like just trying to like start very ambitious with something, and because most of the time you'll end up like halfway there, just based on like reality and logistics and stuff. But that's been an area where we've had a lot of people reach out, that are photographers, that are just like, hey, we would love to help Upandovr and like cover these shows. And so I think that's where we play a really important role. And it's something that's been evolving that I've noticed, is just being this sort of like DIY Rolodex for not just musicians and bands, which is our core, but everyone that surrounds that and that's in like the creative world and is an artist, and offers those creative services, because sometimes people just want to get some reps in, like sometimes like people are like, I am I'm a photographer, but I've like not had a chance to like shoot any shows. And they're like, if I could do that with you guys, like I would love to help out. And I'm like, great. Like, and then, so now we have like a roster of photographers that, are like proactively reaching out, being like, can I cover this show? Can I cover this show? And I think that's the role that I want to continue to play as Upandovr, is just giving creatives like a platform to have the projects to like get some reps in or learn a different skill set, and I think it's becoming this sort of self-serving community in a way that's like just incredible. And I could not like imagine that, day one. So I'm super excited to see what the next, the next year or two looks like.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a lot of growth and a lot of development that I've seen with you guys. I'm curious about how that has affected you in terms of your time and balancing it with the rest of your life and things like that. Having this thing that sort of grows and is amorphous in a way because it's just taking so many different shapes and you're working with so many different people, and how that it's been for you just personally.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. It's very considerate and one that I ask myself a lot because I have to sort of remind myself or create boundaries in terms of when I sort of like turn it on and turn it off, because when it's your passion, I'm sure you can attest to this, and everyone that's, an artist or in the creative world is, you can kind of work yourself past the point where you have like diminishing returns, where you're like, you work yourself like sort of so much because you're so invested in it and interested in it. But, I really believe in breaks. And I think personally, Upandovr has been such a crazy like energy source for me personally to like be motivated and get out of bed in the morning and not just go to my day job but be like really excited to like talk to people, especially during this time where it's been so difficult to connect with people outside of the virtual world. This has been like an opportunity for me selfishly to like help support my mental health through the last 2 years where like everyone's been just absolutely deteriorated. So I am attached to Upandovr in a very emotional way. So because of that reason, so I need to be careful with like how much time I really spend on it, because I could really work myself dry, Yeah. So I think like I've found ways to create those boundaries in really healthy ways. But I also just like love the networking and connection aspect to it. So like, this, like I text a bunch of people that I work with, and the more artists we work with, like I develop personal relationships. And so I don't really shut that side of it off, but I'll be very conscious of like the very real hours that go into like editing videos and like, email outreach and stuff like that. And we'll just be like, we're taking a break, like we've Musical, which you mentioned, which is our like live performance recording series that has been super, super interesting. But I think one thing I learned really fast with Musical is that it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to record and to find places and organize and do the audio and video and do the editing. So very early on, we decided we were going to do sort of these like collaborative bursts where we were like, we're going to record for 3 months, record and edit for 3 months. And then the next 3 months, we're just rolling the videos out. We're not doing anything, because I could be like editing video for 12 months a year. So we do sort of these bursts where it's not always as clean as every 3 months, but what we try to do is be conscious of that, so that, you'll see, we usually do like 2 or 3 songs in those recordings. So like, when we get to like the winter months, we'll just be like rolling them out. We're not like actually doing any recording. So to just like wrap up, that is just, I think it can be very easy to let that slip away, to lose control of your own boundaries when it comes to like working around your passion. And
right.
I think we've done a good job of actually like being forthright with our intention behind how we want to organize our work.
Yeah, that's good, man. I think that's really important. I'm glad to hear that you guys have that. You have a system. This podcast is, a very new project for me. This is only the 2nd episode, but I'm actually adopting pretty much the exact same 3-month on, 3-month off policy, where I'm going to be doing, a season that is 12 episodes, so that's 3 months, and then a break, and then another season that's 12 episodes, and do it like that, for that same kind of balance, because I could just be trying to scramble and find guests and record like every single week of the year, and I feel like I'd probably just crumble and burn out. So I think taking breaks is such a good way to actually get shit done, because you have the space to not burn out and explode, I guess.
For sure.
All right, so now I'm going to ask you the question I brought John here to ask. How do you define art?
So when you said that, my head exploded because I was like, oh my God, where am I going to go with this? But I mean, I think to me, it's so many different things, but it's really like my like driving life force, where like it is something where like I am constantly, I'm asking a lot of art, and I think what art is for me is what I'm like putting back in. So like kind of going back to like the comment on balance, where you know, Upandovr started because a lot of different reasons, but one of which being like I felt like I owed it to like my sort of universe to like put some energy back into something that I take from. And so art in general is, I very much look at it the same way, where art to me is sort of like a driving creative inspiration, and I think it could be any medium. And you know, I think personally that form has taken painting, and it's taken you know, some music, and you know, I think really it's just a word that sort of encapsulates a lot of different outputs for me. But I think it's probably the most crucial it's the most crucial thing in my life in terms of you know, what balances out sort of a lot of the evil in the world, where you're like you don't see a lot of light anymore. And I think what I've always been, if I think back to the moments that have really like turned my head or got my attention or like made me emotional, like it's always come from creativity and people that are investing in themselves through their medium. So art has always been sort of the encapsulation of all that, you know.
Okay. I like this answer. This is interesting. I'm interested by when you're talking about, in your head, it seems like there's this real dynamic of a giving and a taking when it comes to art, and there's this balance. I'm curious if you could expand on more, you know, what it means to be taking, I guess, in terms of consuming art, and why it feels like you're taking in particular.
Yeah. I think like for me, you know, growing up, I always felt like if I couldn't like progress, you know, in some way, I could always better myself. Like if I couldn't like learn a new skill, or, you know, like in very tangible, real ways, like move forward or like evolve, like I always felt like at the very least, I can always try to better myself, be a better person, and you know, like be mentally stronger. And so one of the things that I've always been sort of, you know, I guess the way my brain works is I'm very conscious of when I am consuming a lot of something, and not replacing what I'm consuming from like an energy perspective. Like if I just listen to a ton of music all day long, like I'm still on Spotify. Sorry to say it, haven't jumped ship yet. But like, you know, just listening in that way, I just feel like there's a total imbalance, you know, of like me taking from this like cultural zeitgeist, you know, and thinking about it in the perspective of like, you know, I was like just listening to your music the other day, like you are putting so much time and energy and effort into that. Right. And like for the listener to just be like sitting back on a recliner and just like listening to song and song and song and song and song. It's like, you don't think about all the collective energy that like all of those artists you just listened to put into making that. And it just always felt weird to me. Like it felt weird to me to listen to it and then like not contribute something back, whether that's like monetarily, right, or my own sort of support in that way. Like I think at a minimum, like consumers need to support more monetarily for artists. But from my perspective, I was like, I want to go even further and just be like, how do I, you know, use this platform like Upandovr to just like help be a spark. You know, we never like advertise ourselves as like, you know, we could figure it out. Like, we know how to make it, like nobody, if somebody tells you that they're fucking lying and it's probably a scam. But
Yeah.
I think we always felt like, how could we create really tangible impact in like small ways, like learn how to make a press kit, like a lot of people don't know how to do that. And like we've actually like used support from the community, like for people that have like sent me a press kit and be like, hey, can I use this to share with someone else? We want to at least divert very real tangible things back into that community, to go a step further than just like, the financial aspect. But I think at a minimum, people need to really like question this like route we're going down in terms of how we consume all this content and that's being created by people that are spending a lot of time and energy doing it. So for me, I don't know what it is, but I'm always sort of conscious of this balance of how much I'm consuming and how much I'm putting back in. I think it's just something that like morally is really important to me. And I'm going to keep finding ways to sort of tip the scale back to more, more output rather than more input.
Yeah, that's okay. That philosophy makes absolute sense, especially knowing you. And I think it's really clearly reflected in what Upandovr does. I'm curious as well, because we're talking about this in terms of art and this balance that we're discussing here, with the giving back part now, in terms of, let's say, the things you guys do with Upandovr, you got musicals, that's one kind of thing. You have, like you just mentioned, putting together events, helping people develop these different types of resources. How much would you consider those types of projects to be art or not?
They're mediums, you know what I mean? Like, they're creative mediums, and the art is like what's being captured. I think what the one way we described Upandovr to, like, we very first in the early days was this like collection of dots, and it's something you probably, if anybody's been following us, you probably have heard me say, or we've been like asked in interviews, and it's something that's really important for me to keep in mind is, like, when you build something, you have to look at it like something around the creative community, or that is a creative resource. Like anything wrapped around creativity, you have to leave room to adapt. And like, I'm so conscious about being like, this is exactly what Upandovr is, and it will always be this, and it will always be the products and services. Because I think we've adapted so much in the last 2 years that we've been a thing, that like I can't imagine a world where like we won't keep adapting. So we look at sort of everything we've learned and done as sort of a series of dots, where I've taken like an audio engineering class because I thought it was going to be a podcast. I'm taking like an InDesign class because I thought Upandovr was going to be a magazine. We first started, it was a WordPress blog that only me and Leo wrote and only me and Leo read. So, like no one was ever saw it. But all those things like led to the bigger dot of what Upandovr is now. Like that, all of those skills like helped me develop, more of the products and services that we have. But I don't imagine it's the final dot. Like it's not the final form. Like it will continue to sort of collect other dots as we meet more people and pull more people in and get different perspectives. Like I never want this to be something that is, very like directed from one person. Like I want it to be very, very much listening to community and input from people. So, I think those things that we offer now are I think we like to think of them as like mediums for art. But I think the more and more we meet people and more people that contribute and help us out, like it's opportunity for our like contributors, I think, to like sort of test their own creativity and learn something new. So I think it probably depends who you ask, but I think for me, I just feel like a facilitator of creative opportunities. But I think, what it looks like in the next year, like we'll see. Maybe there's opportunity for it to get more creative on our side.
Nice, man. That's cool. All right, we're kind of coming towards the end here, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to promote anything you might be interested in promoting. I know you have a show that you guys are involved with coming up on February 26th, right?
Yes, the Psychedelic Expo at
Can you tell me more about that? Because I actually don't know anything about that, and I'm quite curious.
Yeah, this is like, we have like such little to do. We had such little to do with actually setting this up. Like the work is like been done by a lot of people that are actually on the lineup, but one band in particular, the Polychromatics, have been good friends of ours, and they are just like, they just have like an absolute motor in their back, and they're always pushing to do something new and do something different, and just get their music out there. And they came to us sort of with this idea for a show mixed with sort of like a marketplace type thing, and bringing more like sort of vendors and small businesses in, and we loved it. And so really our job is to just like help figure out like logistically like how the show runs, and the setup around just the overall event. But it's going to be, there's four really amazing artists on that bill. It's Polychromatics, I really hope I get all these, Bird Furniture, Delay 77, and Double Suede. All four of them like we've worked with before, like amazing bands. But yeah, as far as like, what else sort of we have going on, I think we probably covered a lot of it, but I think Musical is always going to be sort of a steady stream of output for us. It's something that will probably come back around in the spring to start to do some more recording. So if anybody is, interested in being a part of that, we're always sort of bringing people in to learn if and set up that schedule. But I think, what's next is just continuing to highlight and promote all the amazing artists in Philly, and just finding creative ways to do it. So, I think not a lot is currently scheduled, but I think that's kind of how we usually are this time of year. I think we're usually like just sort of getting all our ducks in a row for the spring, and we usually make a big push with a lot of performances. I want to just like do just so much more, and I need to like I need to humble myself sometimes, because it's you sort of like wake up like on the ground one day and you're like, what the fuck, I just like passed out from doing all this, like putting so much like energy and effort into my day job and also my passion. But no, I think the other thing is we have a new studio that we just moved into, and it's sort of going to act as our like HQ and like just place to just like do creative, it's Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory. That's what it is. No, we're probably just gonna set it up in a way where we can use as a space to like interview bands and have meetings, and open up for photography and just like small video performances and shows even. So that's something we're really excited about, and I think you'll start to see some communication on that around March. So we're really stoked for that, and then just trying to just keep on keeping on and helping this amazing community.
Love it. All right, well, I guess that wraps up our episode for today. Nick, again, thanks so much for hopping on. It's always a pleasure to chat, and I'm sure I'll see you soon. I got to check out the studio space, of course. And to everyone out there who's listening and or watching, thanks for tuning in, and catch you next time.
Cool, bye. Thanks for having me.